Platform integrations or product integrations don't always go to plan, and sometimes you get sync errors. Although Pardot sits on the Salesforce platform, you can sometimes get sync errors between Sales Cloud or Service Cloud and Pardot. Some of these can be caused by something as simple as an incorrect pick list value trying to send through, or something a little bit more complex regarding the database. Now we'll go through in this episode some of the things that we see that are most common and the most efficient and easiest way to fix those. Hope you get some value from this. Let us know how you go.
Pardot Ninja.
Hello everyone. Today we're covering off sync errors. Now there are a few different types of sync errors that can happen between Pardot and Salesforce. But we'll cover off the three that we see most, which is duplication errors, invalid pick list values, and validation rule errors. So to see your sync errors, you go to Pardot settings, you click on your connectors, you go to your Salesforce connectors, and then on the cogwheel, you'll see sync errors. Now we've manufactured these, as you can see. And we'll go one by one. So the first one we see here is there's a duplication rule that's matching. So the way that this can happen, it can happen a few different ways. Usually what we see is that there is already a record in Salesforce that may already have an email address. But usually doesn't. It's actually completely dependent on the duplication rules you're setting in Salesforce. So for instance, you'll see with this particular record, we've completed a phone number, a name, and an email address. So if we open this up and we also go back to the main prospect list and we search for this prospect, and then we open up Sales Cloud, we search for this record, Okay, so the reason why it wasn't coming up here is because I actually haven't put an email address in this particular record. So there's an example of how the particular deduplication rules are actually working. So you'll see here that the lead record versus the prospect record, the similarities are the name is exactly the same and the phone number is exactly the same. So even though this has an email and the lead doesn't have an email, it's still picking it up as a potential duplicate. So where this is the case, you're going to need to actually do one of two things. So you're going to need to either add the email in on this record, or you may want to, depending on if there's activity history in here or not, you may want to get rid of this record. And once you add the email into this record, it'll automatically create a prospect in Pardot. Now, for the purpose of this particular exercise, we are going to add this email address into the lead. And then we should be able to sync it. And there your prospect has synced successfully. You can see that there's a lead record, and if you open it up, it'll take you to exactly the same lead record that we were just in. So that's how you fix duplication issues where there actually isn't a duplicate in Pardot, but as it's trying to sync to Salesforce, the duplication rules are matching, and therefore it's blocking it from creating it. There are other instances where you will come across duplication issues, and then when you actually search for that, either the email address or the name in Pardot, it'll come up with multiple records. In that instance, you select however many are matching, and you can go and choose merge, and then you can choose what facets of each of the duplicate records you'd like to keep, and then that'll merge those records for you. So if we go back to Pardot settings and go again, have a look at the next sync error, and we'll see now that it's gone down to 2. So the next one here is we've created just a fake validation rule, I guess. Well, I mean, it's a real validation rule, but for the purpose of this example, we've created a validation rule that says a lead cannot be created if the name contains test. And we've intentionally made the first name test so that the validation rule would trigger. So in this instance, it's probably best to discuss the validation rule with your Salesforce admin. And if there is a workaround, or if there is a way that we can compromise, a way that we've seen, Salesforce admins stay happy, and also, Pardot admins stay happy. And sometimes they can actually make this validation rule exempt from the B2B MA integration user. And what that means is that when Pardot creates or updates records in Salesforce, it lets it save that information without the validation rule stopping it. Now, I understand why, and it happens often that Salesforce admins get nervous about doing that. I completely get it. So it might actually be better to understand why that validation rule is there and see if there's a way that you can add some steps in Pardot to make sure that you're actually meeting those validation rules. So there's no quick fix here other than either, like I said, making the user exempt, the Pardot user exempt from the validation rules, or putting some changes in place on the Pardot side to make sure that you're not triggering off those validation rules. And then the last one, and in fact, probably the most common one that we've seen happen, is where there are restricted pick lists on the Salesforce side. And this will happen if the pick list is a global pick list, or if you've intentionally made that pick list a restricted pick list. And what restricted pick list means is that any values outside of the pick list values that you've defined for that field are not going to be accepted. So either you can go into, speak to your Salesforce admin, or if you are the Salesforce admin, go into that particular field. So we can see here that the target offering field is the problem. And that's going to mean that it's either on the lead or the contact. So we'll go into the lead. Fields and relationships, and then type in target. Oh, spelled that wrong. And then you'll be able to, add that particular value if it's relevant to you. Now, if you've got lots of these and they're lots of different values, what we can actually do is we can actually export You want to do a full export so that exports your custom fields as well. And once you've opened that file, you go to the column that was the problem field, which in this case was target offering. Here we go. And if you had multiple of these, you'd be able to just use the replace all function. So if you search for it by looking for Ninja, in this case there's a few, you get to the right one, and then we can actually go and replace all. By choosing what the accurate value should be that we're replacing there, and then we'll click replace all, save it as a CSV, which you should know how to do, so we won't go through that process. Save it as a CSV, and then you can jump back into Pardot. Reload that prospect list matching by email address back into Pardot, and just select to override that particular target offering field, and that will update that data for you. And then once you've done all that, you can come into your sync error section. This is a new function that Pardot have brought out, where you can select all of the prospect records that have sync errors, and then go down and choose resync prospects and press go, and then that'll flush all of those out. And within a matter of minutes, I mean, obviously depending on how many errors you've got, but usually in a matter of minutes, you can flush all of those sync errors out. Awesome. So that's 3 main sync errors that we come across, how to deal with them. If you have any further questions, always feel free to leave a comment or reach out directly, and be more than happy to help. Cheers. Hey guys, thanks for watching that episode. We hope you got a lot of value out of it. Please don't forget to subscribe and engage with the content, because a lot of it is driven by you guys, the user. So we need to know your feedback. Cheers.